Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Author. Today we have Avery Flynn. Avery, thank you so much for jumping on with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, and sharing with me all of your books that you've got in your collection.
I'm so excited to talk today. I kind of like to always start off these author interviews with an
Mhm.
easy, icebreaker type question. So I have to know, do you consider yourself, which basically how we were talking a little bit before the interview started, I think I have my answer, but do you consider
Yeah.
yourself more an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an extrovert. I'm one of those people. So, yeah, it makes me the bane of a true introvert's existence because I will automatically assume if you're not speaking to me that you hate my guts. So I just need to try harder to make you like me. And yeah, sometimes they don't like me, but sometimes they do. So it's just getting used to that.
I totally feel that. My fiance always is
Mhm.
like, "You could not meet a stranger." And I was like, "I don't know
Mhm.
strangers because they're friends by
Yeah,
the end of it."
exactly. Everybody's a potential friend, so yes.
People probably walk away from conversations and they're like, "I have no idea why I just shared my life story with this random human being, but she wouldn't
Mhm.
leave me alone."
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
Love that. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on today. For anyone who maybe just stumbles upon this YouTube video or is on our Spotify podcast and has not heard of you, has not read any of your books before, kind of just give us a quick rundown. Who are you and how did you get into this business?
Yeah, so I am Avery Flynn. I write hot rom-coms. Highly recommend headphones if you're listening to an audiobook and you're around other folks. Um, highly recommend that. I like to think of my books as just a good time in book form, right? You're gonna giggle. You might sniffle a couple of times, maybe, but it's really just all about that roller coaster fun of rom-coms and romance.
Definitely the audiobook thing. You got to have those AirPods
Mhm.
ready because if you're really into a book, like if you're
You
real,
don't wanna stop.
you don't
Yeah,
want to stop. Like you're going to go grocery shopping, but all of a sudden you get into a sexy scene and you're like trying not to make eye contact with someone walking down the aisle because you're listening to something and you're like, don't mind me. I'm just looking for pasta sauce.
yeah, you're like, "Oh, look at that sale. It's a great sale." I had a friend once who was listening to a hotter book, and she was going through the drive-through line, and she thought she hit pause, and she did not.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad it happened did not happen to me, but I'm so glad it happened because it's a hilarious story. Although that poor teenager working the drive-through line is probably scarred for life.
That's one of my biggest fears is like I'm always clicking pause like well before I get there because I'm like I don't want to take any chances. Sometimes I'll even
Yeah,
like click out of my whatever I'm listening to if it's Audible or something else. I'll just go ahead and
yeah.
like get the app off my phone.
Exit out. Mhm. Yeah. Yep, right there with you. Right there with you.
That's so funny. Well, how did you get into this business? Kind of walk people through a little bit of that, how long you've been in the business, stuff like that.
Yeah. I honestly, I started like a lot of writers did. I knew what I wanted to read and I couldn't find the book I wanted to read. And so I decided to see, ooh, can I write it? And so that's kind of how my first book came out. And now it's like 35, 40 books later. So if you were a backlist binger like me and you haven't read me before, and you like it, then it's a good backlist binge. But that's how I sort of started writing, but I have been a romance reader forever and a day, and my absolute go-to favorite stress relief romances are still like, um, historical romance is such a good stress reliever for me. I never ever want to write it because there's way too much research involved. And even if you're right, people will tell you you're wrong. There's a lot of like back and forth with them, but I love reading those. Like Tessa Dare. Every time Tessa Dare has a book out, I'm like, flunk and grab it.
That's awesome. I can totally get what you mean though by like having to
Hmm.
do, the research side of things. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's a lot of work. People who do it, all the props to them because they are
Yeah.
like very detail oriented. They want to have all those details. They want to like nail it. But
Yeah.
I can see how it would be a lot.
Well, and I love how I say I don't want to do research, and yet I have devoted like an ungodly amount of time one time to looking up like how, like the little pie things that are in diners, like the little glass cases that
Mhm.
spin, like how those are put together and how you would fix it if something went wrong. Like that's the kind of research you end up doing. So yeah, there's still research. I don't know. I lie to myself. It's different kinds of research though.
It's something that, like, maybe 10 years down the road, you're gonna end up on a game show or it's like a family night or something, and someone
There
asks
you
a
go.
question, you're like, "Boom, I have the answer to that because I did
I know that.
research."
There you go. I know that. I know that one.
That's so awesome, I love that, and I think having little fun facts, always good thing,
Mhm.
always
Always a good thing.
good. Well, let's talk about your most recent release, Walk of
Yeah.
Shame. I can see it a little bit behind you
Oh
there.
yeah. Bidding.
Kind of walk me through that process, just using this as an example, but I mean, for all of your books, what that is like from beginning to end. Okay, like the idea comes into your head. Now, how do you go about, putting this all together, having a book, and then now it's obviously published?
Yeah. So the my publisher actually came to me with the cover first. So each of the covers in this series, like the first book, Anger Bang, is bright yellow and it has a little toy dinosaur and a tutu in it. And then this has a sort of Barbie doll sitting in a drink. And she came to me with these, and then the next book as well. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with those. Those are totally my sense of humor. I'm like, I'll figure out a story that would go with that. And so, really, that's kind of how it started and how it went. And it is a hockey romance, and I love hockey. And I've written several other hockey books before. So, it was fun to get to go back to that hockey team a little bit. And so I knew I wanted to write hockey. I knew I wanted to have it be the second book with this trio of female friends. And so there's a lot of, I like to write ensembles. So there's a lot of ensemble cast in there and just funny shenanigans and all of that stuff. And I really wanted to write a story about two people who were very into each other, but for various reasons could not be together and yet could not be in the same room together without putting their hands on each other. And so I just thought that was so funny. And so that's kind of where Walk of Shame came from, is the fact that these people literally physically try and like stay out of the same room together because they're just too combustible. They're too
Literally,
combustible.
you
Hmm.
describe it perfectly. They're in a room together and it's like making eye contact, and it's like, I can't look at you. I can't like even acknowledge
Yeah,
existence, or I'm going to want to touch you.
right, exactly. They cannot be in the same room together. And so that was really fun to get to write all of the silly things that they do to try and avoid being in the same room together, and yet, bam, end up. And the fact that they think, because it's a little bit of an office romance, and because they work for the same hockey team, and the fact that they think they're being so clever about it and that nobody else knows and everybody knows there's a pool going on, about when are they finally gonna get together in public. So yeah, so that
Those
it was fun to write.
Those are my favorite type of romances, when you're like getting to see like the point of view from the characters and they're like, we're being so sneaky, we're so good.
Oh,
And then
and they're
it's like
not.
that final scene that it's, whatever, they're out in public and people are like, all right, give me the 100,
Yeah.
whatever that was. It's like, give me the 100.
Yeah, who had that square? Yeah, that is completely it.
So, so funny. And I think something that you do so good, and it's one of my favorite things, is like the secondary cast of characters are so entertaining. What is that like for you? Because obviously, you want people to love your main characters, you want
Yeah.
them to connect to that. But having such a strong, like, again, secondary cast list, that it's just like you're literally every scene that some people in, you're just like, yes, love it. I want more of that person. What is that like for you? Kind
Yeah.
of those fun characters.
You know what? They just sort of end up coming to me. I think those characters are so fun because I think they go to show sort of the humanity of the main characters a little bit. They don't have to be serious, they don't have to be all of this stuff. And anytime you can write like buddy comedies between two old men, I'm kind of there for it, right? Anytime you get this quirky grumpy older lady neighbor who believes in BYOB means be your own bitch, then I think that is just fun. So a lot of times I write those characters because they make me giggle. So there you go.
They they make everybody else giggle too. So I think
Good.
nailed it on the head with this one. And again, like you mentioned, hockey romance. So if people love,
Mhm.
I'm a big hockey romance girly. So I was immediately like, ooh, I need,
Yeah.
all those things. But it's so fun too. With this book, I want to talk about for a second because I big on audiobooks. I love my audiobooks. The narrators for this audiobook,
Oh,
phenomenal. Talk to me about that
phen
a little bit. Like picking, how does that work? Like, okay, do you get to pick the people that are the narrators? How does that kind of process
oh.
go down?
Man, did I get lucky with narrators in this book. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Um, so what happened with this book is they give you like I got 3 female narrators, 3 male narrators. They're like, "Listen in, see what go," and I'm like, "I really like this one, but, this is your business, so I will, you know, if you know that somebody else can really bring something to it that you think is a stronger candidate, I'm willing to go that way." But it turned out that it was just perfect. We were on the same page, the audio company, and I on both of these, and Robert Hatchett and Savannah Peachwood are just phenomenal on this. They both did such a great job, and I've actually met Savannah in person before, and you know what? She was just nice as pie. So it's always fun when you get to see somebody that you've met and you're like, "Oh, you're kind of a cool person," and then you get to see them do their thing, and you're like, "Wow, you were, like, super talented," in addition to being fun to chit chat with. So that was really nice, but no, they knocked it out of the park. They did a phenomenal job.
I think that's the coolest thing when you have like narrators that just nail it like this. Because
Mhm.
obviously, you have the hard part of you're trying to like write the comedy and stuff into this too. You want it's like a spicy, it's a rom com. You want those moments like people are laughing and giggling and being
Yeah.
fun if you're reading it. But you want that same experience for people that are audiobook listening to it. You want them to still
Oh.
have those laughs, have those giggles. And I think how they portray their characters, like top notch, so good.
Oh, yeah, an audiobook narrator makes or breaks a book. Absolutely, and they make this book in the audio. It is just like they really inhabit those characters. I think it just really goes to show what a skill set it really is, to be an audiobook narrator.
No, I think that's again huge. I was not even a huge audiobook person like a year ago, and I've
Oh,
done a
sucks
complete
you in.
complete twist. Like I love it now. That's
Mhm.
how I consume most of my books as audiobooks, just because again they make it or break
Yeah.
it. Some of my like all-time favorites. I've told people like don't read this book unless you do the audiobook because it is not
Oh,
going to be the same if you don't do it with the audiobook.
it's not gonna hit the same, and I love it too when you can swap back and forth between the 2 and the audiobook narrator, like, what they bring to the book is what you're bringing to it in your head. That is so nice, and a good job, and I also wanna say that, sometimes, like, especially with romance, sometimes, male narrators have not the best track record with doing a female voice in their chapters, and that was not an issue with this book at all, and I was so thrilled about that. So, yeah, I loved it. They did a great job.
No, I think that's so fun. That's so awesome. Walk me kind of back
Mhm.
through again, just your normal everyday writing process. What's that like for you? Are you writing every day? Do you do like certain days other than, than others?
Yeah.
What's that process like for you?
So I tend to be sort of like a mid-morning to mid-afternoon writer. It takes a long time for my brain to turn on in the morning. I am not a morning person. So there's like, 12 cups of coffee and then I can work. Um, that is for me. I tend to, I'm a plotter, so I know what chapters I need to get through each day or there. But I have kids and a family and all that stuff. So I try and only work Monday through Friday. I know some writers are everyday writers. I am not an everyday writer. But I need that time on the weekend just to do stupid things and to watch bad TV and to refill my brain. So yeah.
Totally, totally understand that. When you're not writing and you're not
Mhm.
reading historical romances, what else are some of other fun things that you like to do kind of when you're just like, I need to shut my brain off, like I need to
Yeah.
just away from a set, like, for a second, even if it's just for like, a couple hours in the afternoon. What is your
Oh
like
yeah.
thing?
I absolutely love some bad TV. So like Love is Blind is
Yes.
like yes, I inhaled all of that. And I am still just like, oh my God, what is wrong with those people? So it's yeah. Oh my goodness, Sarah Ann. So I like to do that. I love to go to the movies. Movies are one of my favorite things in the world. So I love that. I put together puzzles and then I do just a ton of like kid activities. So like anybody else who's got kids, you end up running around a lot on the weekend. And then there are the non-fun things that you do like laundry, which is why audiobooks are so awesome because they take you away as you fold.
Totally. You have all the house
Yeah.
chores, dishes, the
Yeah.
laundry, the vacuuming, just all that stuff. And it's like, I can go to another
Mhm.
world. Now I'm peaceful, even though I'm doing chores.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in my happy place. Why do you have to ask me a question? I'm listening to a book. So yeah.
I love that. I can totally understand the reality TV stuff.
Oh my
I
God.
used to be really bad. I would either be like really big on books, was never watching TV, or was like only watching TV and reading
Oh.
maybe one book a month. Like it was like one or the
Mhm.
other. So I'm still mainly in books, but when it comes to reality TV, that is just my like go-to unwind. Like
Yeah,
in the
I have
evening,
no
Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, The Bachelor,
oh,
all of the reality TV. I
I
love it.
know. I don't know what that says about us, but yes, it does hit a happy place. And I never used to be like a book cheater where I used to be a one book at a time person. And now I'm like, I'm listening to one book on audio. I've got one on print and I've got one on my phone. And so I usually have three books rolling at the same point in time. So
I was
yeah.
the exact same way. I could only have one book, and now I have three or four going. It's usually one audio, one or two on my Kindle, and then one physical. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. It is me too.
Well, I'm a mood reader, so it makes it easier because I know which way I'm gonna pick, and I don't have to sit there and scroll through my TBR, which we won't talk about because that's too long.
You feel like sometimes when it comes to your writing, I've interviewed again a lot of people, but I've
Mhm.
heard from a lot of people that when they are mood readers, they find themselves also being mood writers. Do you feel like
Yes.
you fall into that too?
Yes, and it's horrible. Yeah, yeah. I wish I was not, but yeah, you definitely feel it. And I love those folks that like can go anywhere in a book and write. So if they're in a crappy mood and they want to write the big blow up, they can just zip right over and go do that and then go back to something else. I am like linear. So I have to go in order. So yeah, until the end of the book and then I can go all over the place. But in the like beginning and middle of the book, I have to go linear. So if I'm in a crummy mood and I've got to write a funny scene, it's pulling some teeth.
Do you
Pulling some
ever
teeth.
write multiple projects at once kind of going on? Or are you very strictly like, I have to finish this, have to go linear, and then once this is accomplished, I can start something else?
I have tried. I've done it before. It has not been an enjoyable experience. I'd rather not do that again. But I can write one book and edit another book
Okay.
within the same time period because they're different parts of your brain. So I can do that. But I don't, yeah, unless I really, really have to, I don't ever want to try and write two books at the same time again. And I know people who do it and do a great job, but oof, that's not me.
I
Mm-mm.
I get that. I give authors so much credit, like especially when people are just like laying in bed at night and they're like, I just had this whole great idea for like a whole novel, and they go and they get up and they just start typing. I'm like, how do you? Aren't you currently
I
working on something else? And like, oh yeah, it's just like lives in my notes app, and I just go write it in occasionally. What?
wow. Yeah, I love those people. I am not those people. No,
I
no.
love that. So I know you said for this series specifically, you got the covers first. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of how you decided to, write the books based off the covers. Is that the typical process is that you usually get your cover first and then you decide, or is this kind of new for this series?
What when I do my indie books, I like to find the cover first because that helps sort of anchor me a little
Hmm.
bit with the characters and things like that. And plus I am like a lot of folks, I like my cover to match my description of my characters on the inside. And it's so much easier to do that if you get the cover first. So there's that. And then, but no, this is the first time I've ever done that with a traditional book. And usually you end up doing the whole book, and then you send it in, and they're like, well, what's the vibe you're looking for? What is this? What is that? And you get a little bit of feedback. I've worked with Berkeley and with Entangled, and both been fabulous on that. But it's definitely a different process. So yeah, that's, I think, honestly, was what kind of made these books so much fun, is because it was like, oh, so it like anchored me immediately to something about those stories.
I think that's awesome. For people who maybe aren't, super well versed in the book world, kind of explain the slightly different process that you have to go through as the author, the author side of things, between doing more like traditionally published and then indie publishing, kind of how much of a difference it is, for you on that
Yeah.
side of things.
Well, both of them are they are team group efforts, right? I think before I started this, I just thought it was just the writer, and no, it is a huge team effort, no matter which way you go about it. I think the biggest difference is that all of the same jobs get done, whether it's an indie book or a traditionally published book. It's just how much work you have to do in each of these. So if you're on the indie side of things, you're a lot more hands-on, you're doing a lot more work yourself, as far as finding editors, finding cover artists, getting a book formatting, putting it up for sale, all of those sorts of things. On the traditional side of things, other folks take care of that for you, but you have to have a lot of trust in that, the other folks doing it. So it's a very symbiotic relationship, no matter which way. There's pluses and minuses for both. I like being able to do both, but I know a lot of folks who either want all one way or all the other way.
Mhm.
So
Totally
yeah.
understand that. And jumping kind of back to the series,
Hmm.
talking more about the Walk of Shame. Obviously, it is
Yeah.
still very new. For anyone who hasn't picked it up yet, kind of just give us a brief overview what they can expect when they go into this book. So if they've been listening to this and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love her vibes. I think that this would, her type of writing would be something I wanted to
So
jump
do.
into." What can they expect when they go into pick? Obviously, Walk of Shame is the second book, so kind of with both of
Yeah.
these, what can you expect?
Well, so I tend to write the kind of books that I want to read, and I love to read books that are from series where I can jump in anywhere. So all of my books might be interconnected in some way or some form, but you can easily jump into any one or the other. So they're all standalones within series, put it that way. But Walk of Shame, our girl Astrid is left at the altar on her wedding day by her on again, off again hockey goalie boyfriend, who gets traded to another team. And so he has to go right then, and he's like, hey, we'll get married later, it's not a big deal, hon. And she's like, oh my god. And she's done, and he is the only guy she has ever dated in her whole life. Like, she has been in love with him since middle school. And so she decides she has a whole lot of oats to sow. And so she goes on what one of her friends calls a worldwide dick tour. And, she does all of those things. She does not do relationships. And she's like, I'm just kind of done. And I think really what she's doing is having a lot of fun, but also running away from a whole lot of problems. So,
As one
um, as one does. And then Cal, our hero, is a former goalie, and he had a ending injury. And so he's desperate to get back in hockey because he loves it. And so he ends up working for the Ice Knights, which is a team coached by Astrid's dad. She has sworn off hockey in all forms, but ends up getting pulled in for one last season with her dad before he retires. And they have a one night stand, not realizing who the other is. And it breaks all of their rules. And then to find out, oh my God, really, poor Cal. What's the worst thing that you could do if you think you're getting your this is your second chance at your dream? Everybody knows you don't have sex with the coach's daughter. You just don't do that. You
You
just
just don't
don't.
do
You
that.
just don't do that. Right. And she has sworn off all hockey men ever, from the face of the earth. And just to add a little extra twist to it, Cal has been brought onto the team as like a goalie whisperer to help her ex, the goalie, to get over his case of the yips. And so, it is not a love triangle, but there is definitely like a whole lot of conflict mixed in. And these folks have no intention of being together, and they promise that basically each time is going to be the last time they are together. And it is until the very next time. And then that's the last time until the next time. So it's really fun. It's a good time. You'll giggle a lot, and have that happy sight at the end. And just a heads up warning: I am having the absolute best time of my life watching people react to the epilogue of the book, because it definitely people either are really excited to find out how these two characters that are going to be in the third book get together, or they're throwing their book across the room. And I think that is so much fun. So, but yes, so this is Cal and Astrid stories. They have their happily ever at the end because it is a romance. You got to have those, but there's a lot of shenanigans in the way, and Diet Coke. So if you were a Diet Coke girly, you will identify with Astrid on her love of Diet Coke.
Even if you're not a Diet Coke person, I feel like just listening to this or reading this, like you start wanting one by the time you're
I should get a cut. I should get a cut, profit sharing with Diet Coke.
You're sitting there and you're just like, I don't even drink soda. I'm like a sweet tea and like water only person. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, why do I want a Coke now?
Why do I want a Coke? Because she loves them. So which he realizes and brings them to her, which is really sweet. But he is like a gruff cinnamon roll, and she likes to think of herself as this walled off person, and she's not. She's a big mush. So it's a good time, and her friends are really fun.
He's like a perfect little golden retriever that can
Yes.
bring the heat in other areas.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes. He is well formed. He is well formed on all sides. Yes.
Love that. And I think you described it perfectly again. Like, yes, this is the second book, but no, like you can read, or, you can read Walk of Shame first, then go back, or, go in order, whatever, but you write your books purposefully so that people can jump in at any point in time and find you that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Cause if you're in a mood for a certain type of book, you want to pop into that one. And a lot of my books take place in the same world. So sometimes you'll get little Easter eggs where it's like, oh my God, I remember their book. And so it's always, as a romance reader, I love it when I see a couple from a previous book, just even a little cameo. It always makes me laugh.
How does that work for you? You have to have like a diagram going, because obviously some of these may be a little bit further along. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
we've seen you back here, but now you're here. So like, should you have kids? If you do have kids, how old should they be? How does that work when you're trying to like put them all back in?
I have someone was amazing and put together a whole Bible of my characters and places and what they look like and how
Amazing.
I messed up, because in one book I said this, in another book I said this, and I'm like, oh crap, how did we not catch that? So yeah, I highly suggest, my big piece of advice for anybody who's a writer out there is, keep that little listing of all of your character things, because at some point in time you're going to need it, and it's a lot easier to do at the beginning.
And if you're diehard fans, they're going to notice. They're going to catch something's a little different.
They will. And I have definitely reached out to readers before and been like, hey, who remembers this? And they always do. It's magic.
I love that, especially because like you're the one that came up with the characters, wrote them all down, put their story together. Oh, no. But then the reader's like, no, I remember that really clearly, actually.
I know. I just blame the fact that I'm like the kind of person that goes into like the bookstore and is like, I want the blue book with the butterfly on the cover, and it also had the knife, and it had and the really cute guy, and never remember a title to save my life. So yeah,
I just want the pink one with the Barbie and the drink.
There you go, the pink one, Barbie and the drink. I think that's perfect. That would be easy to remember.
So unique, so fun. Yeah. Well, as we're kind of wrapping this up, where can people best find you? Either A, as yourself, to follow you on social media and stuff, and then second, where is it best for them to find you to get a hold of some of your books?
Yeah. So let's see. My website is averyflynn.com. You can go there. You can sign up for my newsletter. I have a Patreon, which is really fun. You get bonus scenes on there. Folks get to vote which couple gets a bonus scene each month. So I do one of those each month, and there's a book box that you can subscribe to if you want to. I'm on all the social medias, usually either as Avery Flynn or Avery Flynn author. My website, I have a store on there, and you can buy signed books, and I'll sign them and send them out to you. I also just updated the appearances for on my website. So I will be at a Polycon this year. I'll be at Book Bonanza. I'm trying to think where else. There's a couple others. So I will be out and about this year. So yeah.
Awesome. Love that. And again, some of them are audiobooks, some of them I believe are on KU too. So
Oh
like
yeah.
lots of different ways for people to
Oh,
get
and check your library. Yeah, I've got a lot of librarians have been amazing about adding the books. So yeah.
I love that, especially like when you want to read. It's so convenient when you want to read a book and you can because it's at the library.
And especially with like Libby, where you could just, click in the middle of the night. Yes. Not that I've done that. I've very much done that. It's available. So it's
Not
awesome.
that I give you a specific reason because I haven't
Yeah.
done it, but I just happen to give you something so specific just as an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Well, is there anything else that I haven't asked you today that maybe you would want to just say to readers as we kind of wrap this up?
I don't think so. Just thank you guys and for picking up the books, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. And again, you can follow her on all the areas that she said. Be sure to read all of the books. And until next time, you guys subscribe to all of our future author interviews and more. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.